They were built to change the world. Instead, they broke it. 7 levels of failed megaprojects. From 0 deaths to 700. From lucky accidents to billions burned. Some failures don't die. They get famous. They break every rule, then end up on postcards. Level 1, failed up. Pisa, year 1173. Builders start a bell tower on soft ground. By the 3rd floor, it's already leaning. By the 7th, nearly 4 meters off center, visible from across the square. Work pauses. Wars come and go. Decades pass. Each restart adds weight to the wrong side, and the lean grows. For centuries, engineers try everything. 800 tons of lead weights, cables, freezing the soil, nothing works. 1990 to 2001, engineers finally stabilize it. They pull it back 45 centimeters, just enough to be safe. But they deliberately leave it crooked. Straight equals boring. Crooked equals millions in tickets. They kept the lean, because the failure became the brand. A mistake turned money machine. London, 2014. 20 Fenchurch Street. The Walkie-Talkie. A curvy glass wall, concave, south-facing, that focuses sunlight like a parabolic death ray. The architect had built the same mistake in Las Vegas 3 years earlier. Somehow, no one checked. Car parts warped, plastic melted, a reporter fried an egg on the pavement. The fix? A £7 million sunshade, paid for by raising rents on the tenants inside. Problem solved, just not by the people who caused it. Then they installed a sky garden at the top. The ugliest building in Britain became a tourist queue with a view. The skyscraper that cooked the city now feeds it. Sydney, 1959. The Opera House begins as a dream sketch by 𝐂𝐚𝐻𝐿𝐿. Then the budget explodes, 1,300% over. A new government cuts his fees, overrules his designs, humiliates him publicly. 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐿 doesn't resign, he's pushed out. He leaves Australia and never returns, not even to see it finished. Years late, wildly over cost, design compromises everywhere. And when it finally opens in 1973, critics call it irresponsible. Give it time. Today, it generates 1.5 billion Australian dollars a year in tourism. The $102 million price tag? Paid back every 3 weeks. The disaster is now a national money printer. And 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐿, once forced out, is celebrated as a genius. 3 disasters that bent into icons. But here's the warning. For every tower that leans into glory, 100 just fell. We remember the survivors, we forget the rest. Should we celebrate failure if it becomes art? Or does that just teach the next generation to gamble? Level 2, the math didn't math. Not every failure gets lucky. Some just prove you can't negotiate with physics. It was supposed to be science. It became slapstick. In 1940, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge opened as Washington State's pride. A mile of steel so flexible, engineers bragged it could dance with the wind. On its first stormy morning, the bridge began to twist. 8-meter waves rolling through solid steel drivers abandoned their cars as the deck buckled like ribbon. Winds hit just 64 kilometers per hour, barely a storm. But the bridge had turned itself into a giant sail. The deck twisted, bucked, and ripped apart mid-air 4 months. The footage still feels impossible, a bridge performing ballet seconds before death. Why? Designers saved money by skipping wind tunnel testing. They trusted the math, and the math lied. 36 years later, Idaho's Teton Dam would control floods and power cities. Finally, man beats nature. Except engineers built it on volcanic rock, literally a sponge. In 1976, the first time they filled the reservoir, hairline leaks turned into geysers. Minutes later, the dam split open. A wall of water killed 11 people and erased entire towns. $2 billion in damage. The equations had worked on paper, not on geology. Shanghai, 2009. A 13-story luxury tower. Until one morning it was lying on its side, perfectly intact, like someone tipped a Jenga block. One worker died, hundreds nearly did. No earthquake, no explosion, just bad excavation. They dug too close to the foundation. Rain softened the soil. The entire tower tipped like a domino. 3 projects, 3 dreams undone by numbers that didn't add up. Around a dozen lives lost. Billions in damage. Gravity doesn't forgive optimism. Level 3, the beautiful failures. Not every disaster stays a cautionary tale. Some become museums, some become manuals, some become mirrors. Stockholm, 1628. The Vasa launches to cannons and drums. Sweden's pride, stacked with 64 guns and carved gods. The king wanted more guns. Shipbuilders warned it was already unstable. He added them anyway. Top heavy, no ballast. When the wind hit, the Vasa filled with water in minutes. Hundreds drowned. It sails about 1,300 meters, then tips in a gust and sinks in front of the crowd. For 3 centuries, it sleeps in the Baltic's brackish water, too salty for shipworms, too fresh for rot. The sea that killed it also saved it. 1961. After 5 years of salvage, engineers raised the Vasa whole. They build a climate-controlled museum around it, Stockholm's most visited attraction. 1.5 million visitors a year. A warship that sank in 20 minutes now makes money for centuries. Failure curated. Puget Sound, 1950. 10 years after Galloping Gertie tore itself apart, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge 2 opens. This time, wind tunnel testing first. A deck twice as wide, built to let wind blow through instead of push against. The first bridge fought the wind. The second bridge dances with it, designed to flex, not resist. Study the wreck, then build the remedy. The first bridge became a textbook. The second became the answer key. Hubris, homework, mastery, a complete circle. Dubai, present day. The Burj Khalifa pierces the clouds, an elevator ride to the edge of the sky. But greatness hides plumbing. When it opened in 2010, Dubai's sewer system couldn't handle it. For years, trucks hauled waste away daily, the world's tallest building with a porta-potty logistics problem. Eventually, Dubai built a dedicated sewer line. Years late. World's tallest on the outside, infrastructure playing catch-up underneath. We can build height faster than we can build systems. The skyline says future. The pipes say patience. 3 reframes, a ship that failed upward into treasure, a bridge that turned collapse into textbook, a tower that reminds us, you can't skip the boring parts. Failure is a teacher only if we do the homework. If we don't, it's just an expensive rerun. Level 4, the ghosts of ambition. We're climbing the ladder. No deaths yet, but the money starts bleeding. Some mega projects don't collapse. They just stop. The lights go out, the fences stay up, and the desert, the sea, and the debt collectors take over. Off the coast of Dubai, a map of the world drawn in sand. The world islands. 300 islands, each one sold as a private nation for the ultra-rich. Celebrities bought countries. Developers bought continents. $14 billion in construction, plans for hotels, villas, resorts. Then 2008 hit. The money dried up. So did the maintenance. Currents shifted the sand, channels filled. Satellite images show islands losing shape. Some have eroded by 15%. The sea is taking back what it never should have given. Of 300 islands, only 2 were ever finished. One is a luxury resort. It's mostly empty. The other 298? Sand, a $14 billion monument to hubris. And Google Earth's saddest screenshot. Spain, 2009. Ciudad Real, a city of 75,000 people, opens a 1.1 billion euro international airport. Madrid's airport is 2 hours away. The plan? Steal traffic from the capital. The result? 0 airlines came. By 2012, bankrupt. In 2015, the entire airport, runways, terminals, control tower, auctioned for 10,000 euros, less than a used car. A €1 billion airport sold for the price of a Honda Civic. You can build the gate to the world. If no one shows up, it's just a very expensive hallway. Nassau, Bahamas, Baha Mar, a beachfront dream at over $4 billion. Hotels, casinos, the works. Then 2015, bankruptcy. The Chinese state-owned contractor walked away. Lawsuits, diplomatic crisis. For 2 years, the resort sat empty. Blue water, white sand, shut doors. In 2017, it reopened. New owners, China, the same country that walked away. They bought it at a discount after the original developers lost everything. The resort works now, the investors don't. 3 projects, no explosions, no dramatic collapse, just the slow suffocation of cash flow and confidence. Around $19 billion in waste. 0 deaths, but fortunes destroyed and nations embarrassed. Would you buy a villa on the World Islands for $500,000? Betting the sand will hold this time? Level 5, the capitalism paradox. Now we cross a line. The money's still bleeding, but now so are people. When profit outruns physics, somebody pays the bill. October 12th, 2019, New Orleans. The Hard Rock Hotel was almost finished, a glass and steel trophy for investors chasing luxury money. For weeks, workers filmed the floors sagging and swaying. Cracks spread through wet concrete. Some refused to go back up. The contractor said, "Keep working. Deadlines first. Doubts never." At 9:12 a.m., the top floors buckled. Concrete sheared, steel bent. 3 workers were crushed before they could reach daylight. A dozen others dangled from rebar until rescuers cut them free. Investigators found the beams were 40% weaker than the design called for, swapped to save money and time. The structural engineer approved it. Cost savings? $80,000. Cost in lives? 3. The half-collapsed tower stood for 10 months. 2 bodies still trapped inside, while lawyers fought over who'd pay for demolition. New Orleans had to stare at the wreckage every single day. Germany's Berlin-Brandenburg Airport was meant to open in 2011, a showcase of German engineering precision. It opened in 2020, 9 years late, 7 billion euros over budget, and it still didn't work. Fire safety systems wired backwards. Smoke extraction fans reversed. A miles-long cable network installed wrong. Every delay cost another 100 million euros, money that could have built schools, hospitals, housing. When it finally opened in 2020, during a global pandemic when no one was flying, passengers found broken escalators, water leaks, and closed terminals. Officials called it a triumph of perseverance. Taxpayers called it a 7 billion euro embarrassment. March 15, 2018, Miami. A pedestrian bridge installed in 6 hours, celebrated as accelerated innovation, snapped across live traffic during rush hour. 6 people crushed in their cars. The engineer inspected cracks that morning, called the state at 9:30 a.m., left a voicemail. "We found some cracking, but there's no safety concern." A meeting was scheduled for the next day. The bridge fell at 1:47 p.m. before anyone acted. 3 projects, 3 ways to fail. Hard Rock in Miami, lives traded for deadlines. Berlin, billions burned for nothing. And the same people who made these calls? Still building. 9 deaths. Over $10 billion wasted. Should executives and engineers face prison for negligence? Or just another fine they can afford? Level 6. Death by details. We've reached the top of the death toll. 714 lives. Sometimes the math works. The humans don't. July 17th, 1981, Kansas City. The Hyatt Regency Hotel was packed with dancers, families, couples, children, watching from 2 suspended walkways above the lobby. At 7:05 p.m., the music stopped. The bolt snapped. 100 tons of steel and glass fell through the crowd. 114 people died where they stood. Over 200 were injured. The design had been safe until a contractor made one change: 2 support rods instead of 1. It doubled the load on a single connection. The engineer never rechecked the math. No one caught it until 114 people paid the price. 14 years later, across the Pacific, history repeated, louder. The Sampoong department store in Seoul was South Korea's pride. 5 stories of marble and luxury shops. Designed as an office building, light loads, minimal stress. The owner converted it to retail, heavier, then added a 5th floor with a rooftop restaurant and pool. The architect quit in protest. The owner hired a new one. The morning of June 29, 1995, cracks tore through the 5th floor ceiling. Staff saw them, reported them. Managers said, "Keep the store open." At 5:52 p.m., the ceiling caved. Within seconds, all 5 floors pancaked down. 502 people died. Hundreds more were trapped in the dark. The engineer who approved the 5th floor? Found guilty of negligence. In court, he said, "I didn't think it would collapse so soon." Not if. Soon. 26 years later, Florida forgot those lessons. The Champlain Towers South Condominium in Surfside stood for 40 years, while salt water slowly ate its concrete core. In 2018, inspectors warned major structural damage repairs needed immediately. The condo board debated $15 million in repairs. They delayed 3 years. At 1:22 a.m., June 24, 2021, the building collapsed in on itself, each floor pancaking onto the one below. 98 people, seconds, 3 tragedies, 3 warnings ignored. Hyatt. 1 bolt change equals 114 dead. Sampoong. Keep the store open equals 502 dead. Champlain. Delayed repairs equals 98 dead. 714 lives total. The deadliest level on this list. Would you step inside a building after seeing cracks on the wall? Level 7. Monuments to Ego. We've climbed from 0 deaths to 700, and now we reach the peak. Not of death, but of scale. 0 deaths here, but tens of billions wasted. Decades lost. Nations embarrassed on the world stage. Not a skyline, a scoreboard, architecture as a middle finger. Jeddah, 2013. A foundation in the desert. A promise. 1 full kilometer high. The world's first. Saudi Arabia would embarrass Dubai's Burj Khalifa by 170 meters. Not for tourists, not for tenants. For the headline. Cranes rose. Concrete climbed. Then, silence. 2018. Crown Prince MBS rounds up 300 billionaires, including the tower's lead investor, held in a 5-star hotel turned gilded prison. Work stops overnight. 2023. Construction continues. New contractors, new budget, new renderings, as if a decade of dust storms had erased the design. 2025. Still unfinished. Exposed rebar bleaching in the sun. A kilometer of scaffolding leading to nothing. The world's tallest monument to maybe someday. This was never just a tower. It was Saudi versus UAE, pride versus precedent. Steel can handle gravity. It cannot schedule a royal rivalry. Pyongyang, 1987. The Ryugyong Hotel, 105 floors, 330 meters, taller than the Eiffel Tower. North Korea's answer to the 1988 Seoul Olympics, a pyramid to prove we're not the poor Korea. Construction raced, funding stalled. By 1992, work froze. For 16 years, it stood as a concrete corpse, the Hotel of Doom. Then, in 2008, an Egyptian telecom company paid for a glass facelift, not to finish the hotel, but to use it as a billboard. LEDs on the skin, propaganda on the screen. Inside, still dark, no power, no plumbing, no guests, a monument that cannot host a wedding, hold a conference, or boil a kettle. Not architecture, optics. A country trying to project strength by pouring a skyline over empty rooms. Dubai, 2010. Its main airport is landlocked, maxed out. Solution? Build a bigger one in the desert. Maktoum International. 5 parallel runways, 400 gates, 200 million passengers a year. More than Heathrow, LAX, and JFK combined. The bet, growth, never stops. Cargo rolled. A few passenger flights came and went. Then, pause. For years, this city of the future was a mostly empty apron. Vast terminals without travelers, shuttle buses idling for no one. 2024, Dubai announces a $35 billion expansion. They're going to make the empty airport even bigger, because clearly the problem was scale. But the desert remembers. 3 stories, same script. When leaders build to outshine rivals, people become extras. Towers that chase records, airports that chase headlines, pyramids that chase fear. Over $50 billion in sovereign wealth poured into sand, frozen mid-air, or blinking to nobody. 0 deaths, but entire national economies distorted geopolitical embarrassment. Decades wasted. Not all ego projects collapse. Some, like the Burj Khalifa, work. They find tenants, host tourists, turn a profit. But here's the difference. Those projects had a plan beyond the press release. Pride can order concrete to rise. It cannot order purpose to follow. Which country builds for pride, not people? Name it, and tell us why. We've climbed from 0 deaths to 700, from lucky accidents to wasted empires. But the cranes are still moving, and somewhere right now, a render is hiding the plumbing. Which 2025 project will be on this list in 20 years? Call your shot in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss when we find out which one collapsed.